Hello consumers, I'm Eltari, the professional gamer. I need a haircut, and this is the PAX Friday review. This is a show where we go through all of the new, fun, exciting, and interesting information that has dropped for PAX Day over the past week. Last week, we were told by the developers to expect some new information about something that started with the letter D. Now, while many of you had some very admirable guesses as to what this word potentially could be that started with the letter D, but as with most things, the most obvious answer is typically correct. So, today we got a lot of new information about dungeons. In this video, we're going to go over the 12 screenshots that were given to us by Mainframe today, and we're going to cover some things like the first image of magic in Pax Dei, as well as potentially the group sizes that we can expect, at least for dungeons, as well as what potential things might be lootable inside of dungeons. So there's a lot of fun new information to cover in these screenshots, and I hope you can join along for the ride. As always, if you enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. It most certainly helps our small startup channel. Also, just as a side note, you probably want to wait till the very end of the video because I have a nice special treat for everyone who does. With that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so out of all of the exciting new information that we have to look through from these 12 screenshots of dungeon gameplay in Pax Dei, the first one, and one of the most exciting ones in my opinion, has to do with, I believe this is the first screenshot we have of magic in Pax Dei. So up until this point, all we've been told by Mainframe is that magic in Pax Dei is very real and exists in the world. But we haven't seen what that looks like, at least in-game. So in this first screenshot that we're looking at, other than the really cool atmospheric lighting that exists, as well as what looks to be some Zebians over here, we have two very interesting aspects of this screenshot that I want to look at. The first one is right here. I believe this says nymphoid toxin. So nymphoid toxin, and it's red. It kind of looks like it's a blob. Maybe it's a Zebian. If it is, I don't really know why it doesn't say Zebian here. But it also says toxin, and that typically implies like a poisonous monster, or if it's a toxin, maybe a poisonous gas. It's kind of hard to tell with just the atmospheric lighting that's all over here in the fog, but this is potentially just another mob that we're going to be able to see inside dungeons, or possibly some area of effect that exists in Pax Dei. We don't know how combat works, and this very much so looks like it could potentially be either a new enemy or possibly an area of effect. But more importantly, and what I'd like to drag everyone's attention to here, is we have what I believe is Amarun, who is casting a fireball flamethrower spell. They said they wanted everyone to stand back. They're going to burn the enemy, so we can clearly see there's some red flame-like things in the hands right here, and it's looking like it's pointed in the direction of the nymphoid toxin. So I think this might very well be the first instance of magic that we see being used in Pax Dei. Now, an interesting thing to note here is I'm pretty sure, and we'll check and confirm this at a later point in this video, but I'm pretty sure that Amarun is wearing like full plate armor in this screenshot. So you can cast magic regardless of what armor you're wearing, or maybe there's different effects that exist there. Everyone here looks like they're wearing at least some degree of plate armor, so confirm that you can use magic with different types of armor weight classes. Confirmed? Maybe. But other than that, we just have a really cool image of what we'll see in the dungeon. We have a lot of weapons that we see drawn out here. It looks like we have 1, 2, possibly 3 maces or clubs, and we see what looks to be a one-handed warhammer here. Let's go on to the next shot. So here, if that previous one is not a instance of magic, this I feel like definitely is as well. So I can't really tell exactly what we're looking at and who's the enemy and who's not, because two people are on fire here. But I think it's safe to guess, based on like the weird decrepit nature of the sorry individual on the right, it looks like they're the ones casting some kind of magic, and this looks like one of our fearless developer dungeon delvers, and that is them getting caught on fire. Maybe potentially a similar spell to what Amarun was casting as well. Just additionally here, it definitely appears, at least to me, that there are 4 players here. I don't know if this implies that the group size is a maximum of 4 players or not, but this dungeon definitely looks like it is quite the dangerous place, and the developers have even said that. I think that might indicate we have a group size here. Maybe not. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. But also something interesting in this video here is, off in the distance, I'm seeing what looks to be a treasure chest. It's either a treasure chest or it's some kind of chest. That looks like a chest, covered up by some roots and some vines and stuff like that. So it's almost like the vines are reaching towards it. I don't know if that's intentional. Maybe this isn't actually a chest and it's just another one of these. I can't really tell. But if this is a chest, then maybe these are lootable things that you can go and find inside of these dungeons. Another thing that we know about dungeons is that numerous parties can all be in these dungeons at the same time. Now, we haven't seen that yet, or at least everyone here we assume are in the same party, but that means while you're out and exploring inside one of these dungeons, you might roll up on another group of players and be able to interact with them, be that PvP or trying to get through the dungeon together and look for some more spooky boss boys. Now, additionally, something that I found interesting here is in the developer journal that was given along with these screenshots, they said in this particular screenshot they were returning to camp. So it makes me wonder, because I have seen several shots of these fireplaces. It kind of makes me wonder if these fireplaces might have something significant to them, if this is like a campsite where you can set up inside the dungeons that maybe is a little bit safer than other places. I only would say that that might not be the case because there is literally Zebians right here, but we do know that they intend for dungeons to be a place where you can kind of set up a temporary camp and prepare yourself for the next fight. So maybe this is one of those locations inside the dungeon where there aren't any mob spawns and you can kind of set up and regain your air, essentially, before you continue to delve further down into the deep dark depths. Who knows? But we can also see another one here as well, and it looks like there are no other Zebians here. So either way, this dungeon is looking very huge, like Mines of Moria huge. And a lot of it has to do with this tall vertical space that exists. But the fact that we're seeing multiple levels with all of these staircases and stuff like that, where there's just different elevations, and then you see these large towering pillars, some of them with animated creatures kind of creeping out of them, is really cool. And it makes me very excited to take a peek inside of these various dungeon spaces and to uncover some of the lore that might be hidden with inside of them. Speaking of lore, in one of our previous videos, we mentioned that there were kind of these 2 locations on the alpha map that we were trying to find out what they necessarily were. One was called Empire Ruins, or ER, and the other one was called potentially Ruined Fortress, or RF. Now, the ER seems to be a place where Zebians are congregating, whereas the RF seems to be a ruined fortress where Sethians seem to be picking up their location. Now, the fact that we're in a dungeon, a place where the only location that we could see on the map so far that said it had a portal was ER, or Empire Ruins. Specifically, Empire Ruins Large is what it said. That, to me, almost implies that there might be a connection between Empire Ruins, the fact that Zebians are connected to Empire Ruins, and then the fact that it said portal, implying that there is a portal to somewhere else, or in this case, a dungeon. So I don't know if that is necessarily the case, but if that is, then there were multiple locations on that alpha map that said portal next to their name, all being Empire Ruins. So maybe this is confirmation of all of the dungeon locations that are in the first alpha map on Ancien. So very cool there. Next up, we see a boss. So our 4 developer heroes are going up against, or maybe it's not a boss, maybe it's just a named something, but it's called Goldie's Hero. And it's very hard because this dungeon is very dark to make out exactly what this is. But to me, this just looks like a very dark cloud of smoke. Now, in the original developer announcement video for Pax Dei, they were seen fighting a very large smoky creature for about 0.5 seconds. So maybe these two things are connected, but nevertheless, definitely appears as though they're preparing for what seems to be a large battle in front of them. So the next couple, we see a lot of just awesome atmospheric screenshots of what we can expect inside of these dungeons. One interesting thing that I noted in most of these is that it seems like there's food or scattered banquet items all throughout the caverns of these dungeons. It does kind of make lore sense because, as we know, Zebians are gorgers, potentially zombies or cannibalistic people. They definitely look undead. The main motif we've gotten from all of the lore and all of the information is a zombie-like or zombie-adjacent type of enemy that we as players are going to be going up against. So I find it cool that even in this Empire Ruins area where the Zebians have found and called home, there's all of these banquet items there. Now, another really cool feature that exists in these dungeons is all of these just really well sculpted marble-esque looking wall pieces. Now, the interesting thing here is they kind of look like they are living things that are trying to creep their way out of the walls. So it makes me wonder if whatever happened in these dungeons and whatever made these dungeons the way that they are these stone people coming out of the walls actually people trying to escape some terrible fate. Maybe it's the old empire of Gallia and whatever great calamity has occurred. They're somehow trapped here, and the Zebians are the only ones that were not trapped. Then we see another, what the developers said in their journal, a place of safety as they're getting ready to continue delving further into the dungeon. I don't think we've seen more than one screenshot of the same location in all of this. This is another hallway that they said they chose to not go down. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more Zebians, all looking dead and generally unpleasant. Then right here we have our heroes in what looks to be a pool of water that is potentially on fire. I don't know what that is. It almost looks like there's a hole that's going into something, or there's rocks that are creeping out and there's just light right there, or there's a reflection from light. But all of our developer heroes standing there with their various weapons, looking like they either are about to start something fun or they just finished fighting a hard fight. And then here is a nice close-up of a Zebian, and again we can see that same kind of motif on their backs here. So I wonder if that has something to do with whoever they worship, maybe the Great Deceiver or Dark Lord or whoever the main leader is of the Zebians. That looks to be a brand of theirs. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 directions, 5 if you include going back towards the camera. 5 directions that you're able to go at this juncture, and pretty much every single shot that we've seen so far has included 5 or more different directions that you can go while you're inside this dungeon. So very much so a labyrinth. And then lastly, we have this nice atmospheric shot of the dungeon and another safe place where our adventurers can hang out for a quick second before they decide to keep going or pull back. So that's all of the screenshots that we had to look at for dungeons in Pax Dei. We saw that there is our first screenshot of magic. We've seen potentially how big our group sizes can be with only observing about 4 players in this dungeon today, and we know it's pretty difficult. And then we also saw potentially lootable objects that are located within the dungeon, and potentially camps that are a safe space for players as they are adventuring further and further down into the deep, dark depths. But other than that, let me know if you saw anything that I didn't spot, and if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe. Share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. And until next week, I will talk to y'all later. Thanks, consumers.